Well, today is the day. It is the official 30th birthday of Duke Nukem 3D, which is such a legendary and groundbreaking FPS game. One that I really fondly cherish ever since I was a teenager and got to play the demo of this game for the very first time on PC. I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I really wanted to pick up my own copy on PC, but my parents wouldn't get it for me, of course, probably because of the, the aspects of the game, right? But I did eventually pick it up on the N64. It was actually the very first N64 game I owned, which was Duke Nukem 64. And that particular version of the game has its issues. They changed some things around and, it has some problems. But it was still a good version of the game, all things considered, including the 4-player split-screen multiplayer. But today we are playing the Megaton edition of the game, which included all of the expansions that they had released from back in the day. Although there is a newer version called the World Tour Edition, which has an extra expansion and has some enhancements and all that good stuff. But I don't have that version because it's published by Gearbox since they own the franchise now. And I don't personally support Gearbox. I have my reasons. Maybe one day we'll divulge into that. But anyways, I wanted to talk about this groundbreaking FPS itself. And there is a lot of older first-person shooters. People are, of course, most familiar with Doom. They may also be familiar with Wolfenstein 3D and some other ones from that era, the Hexen and so on. But what made Duke Nukem 3D really stand out from its brethren is the attention to detail with the level design itself. Like this very first stage, for example, you could see we're kind of going through a movie theater, and we got these different aliens and whatnot we're fighting, and you'll see that we are actually in the projector room of the movie theater. We were just in there, and we can open it up, and hey, look at that. This is what classified as racy back in 1996, folks. And, of course, the amount of secrets that this game has. There is such an insane amount of secrets. This is pretty much like the first-person shooter equivalent of, well, I guess Doom had a lot of secrets too, I suppose, or Wolfenstein even. But this game really took it to the next level in terms of that aspect. Because, first of all, you have a full 3D traversal, even though the game still runs a sprite-based engine. It's called the build engine, which is kind of like, I guess you could say it's kind of like the Doom engine, but it's just more advanced. Because it allowed you to do various things that you couldn't do in the Doom engine, but it was still 2D sprites. It wasn't until like Quake that we really started seeing full 3D FPS games become mainstream. But they did everything they could to the full advantage with this particular engine to, even though it had that shortcoming of being 2D sprites, it was still kind of acceptable for that era because most games were still designed this way. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit because I also want to demonstrate that this game has a lot of interactivity. Just about any little object like this fire hydrant that I kicked, you can destroy it, you can manipulate it. That's not something that people were really doing with video games back in 1996. And honestly, if you think about today, it's not something people really do. Now, technically right here, I can actually go straight to the end of the stage because I just grabbed the jetpack. And directly above this window is where the exit of the stage is. So I could just go on the jetpack, go into that little red room, and leave right there. This game gives you a lot of agency on how you want to tackle the stages and whatnot. Like right there it is. That is the exit. Anything like that with the glass pane with that, you can just knock it and do that. But there is so much more to this, just this first little level. There is a lot of stuff going on. You got exploding canisters, they'll blow up in walls, and you can, of course, go through there. Now, technically, I can't go that way because that is a door that is locked by a key card. So we're going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit and show you more of this particular stage. So we ride up this elevator that takes us into the arcade of the movie theater here. Got a couple aliens, of course, to blast, and we see some arcade games. Now, we have a Duke Nukem arcade game.
Don't have time to play with myself.
And you'll notice there's a lot of humor. Now, I noticed there was like a weird glitch that I just seen there. I noticed that was open, but it's not opening back up, so I don't know exactly what happened there. This particular version of the game does have issues, but as you can see, that's the door we had to get through the key card, and now we can leave the stage. That's how you would normally leave the stage if you don't open up the exit for the, the shooting the movie screen. But there was actually more to the stage that I didn't even show you. But we're just going to go straight ahead into this next stage here. Again, you're going to notice that with the particular stage layout, they actually try to make it look like a city, which, I mean, it's pretty laughable by 2026 standards. But this is what they could do, honestly, back then, guys. This was, like I said, 1996. Just look back at the game technology back in that time. But you'll notice a lot of really cool things. Like, you've got those pig cop dudes that are on these flying vehicles now. You can shoot them down. And of course, when they're flying around the vehicle, they're just kind of like patrolling around. They're kind of annoying you. Blast it with the rocket launcher in that particular case. Shoot them right down. And the enemies just keep flowing here. So we've got this building right here, which we're going to be doing something very special with that very soon. I'll show you in just a bit. And then we've got this little room here where they got this guy guarding the keypad. And then there's another keypad right behind us there, where that was the yellow one, of course. We're going to go ahead and check out this video store that's in that building right there. And see, it shows like a different style of door, which that wouldn't make sense for an actual video store. But you can see they actually have some shelves there that obviously back in this era, they could not show enough resolution to actually show like any actual titles that you can pay here, but you'll notice they have these private viewing rooms, and their aliens are watching, of course, watching the 1996 approximation of what the ESRB would have allowed for nudie films to be in a video game. Like I said, this was a pretty controversial game for its time. But it had a lot of attention to detail with that. We got this teleporting enemy, of course, which is kind of annoying to deal with. But again, this was not something that you really saw. Like, you did see teleporting enemies, like in Doom, of course, back in the day. But they were all based on triggers that were designed by the level designers. And we actually have a tiny little puzzle here. You have to hit the buttons in that specific sequence to open up the door. And you get this really dark room. You'll notice a lot of the areas in this game are pretty dark. Of course, we don't have dynamic lighting or anything like that. There's no flashlight that you get in this game. All the lighting is pre-baked based on what's in the engine. And back then, we were gaming on CRT monitors, not these LCD or LED or OLED monitors that we're gaming on nowadays. They had a natural phosphor glow. It makes it a lot easier to see in the dark areas, honestly. So you have to consider the lighting was tuned for that particular time. We got a restroom here. As I don't know if you noticed from previous times, but you can actually see Duke's reflection. They use some kind of trickery for that because obviously the engine doesn't support actual reflections, but they show your player's reflection through the mirror, as you can see there, and it shows him jumping and all that good stuff. Pretty impressive technique for that era. But obviously nowadays, like I said, it's kind of laughable, but you'll notice that wall had a little bit of a crack, so we can bust that open. That's just another way to get into the restroom. You know, like I said, a lot of the little details that they've had like this were kind of irrelevant, I suppose you could say. Like, they weren't really important. But it was just cool. It's cool to actually explore and experiment, which is not something that you honestly see in most first-person shooters nowadays. So that poster there, it's not anything particular in this here, but you'll notice I could shoot a security camera. There's actual security camera feeds that you can look at, which will show you those locations. And again, the map designer was able to tie that in specifically to where that was. So now we're doing the keypad thing here. And again, it's like another little puzzle like we had in the video store. You have to hit the buttons in a specific sequence for something to happen. So I forgot what the sequence is, so I'm just kind of experimenting a little bit here. But this should be it right here. Okay. And that brings up a nice little building demolition. You can step out here and see it. That's what the technology was, guys. But we can hop over here, and we had to do that to get another keypad. FYI. No, or keypad. Key card, rather. So that we can go in here. Kind of ridiculous, kind of redundant. I think the designers did that intentionally just so that they can show off the tech of their engine for that era, because that would be unnecessary, honestly, to do that. Otherwise, to hide a key card behind a building that you have to destroy and all that stuff. Like, obviously, that's what the whole purpose of it was. But we got another restroom here. There you go with the mirror. So we got this special wall here that I can open. Like I said, this game's got a crap ton of secrets. We just hop right down here. Blast these guys over. And now we've got this kind of floating alien thing. I killed him pretty quickly, but he'll shoot like this little beam thing at you. And we can go down here. You can shoot the rats. Yes, you can shoot the rats. I mean, they're just little sprites, but they'll do that, of course. And then we get these women that are stuck in those things, and you have to, kick them because they are, taken over by the aliens. For anybody that doesn't know the story of like Duke Nukem 3D, this is about. I mean, it's not a serious story, guys, but. Basically, aliens come, take over Earth. They're trying to take all the women. And Duke Nukem is trying to save the Earth and kill the aliens and all that stuff. I mean, that's pretty much what the story boils down to. Now, you got this pool table here. And you can actually interact with the pool balls here, as I'm about to demonstrate. After I run around for a little bit here in third person, just demonstrate that you can do that with this particular version of the game. That wasn't in the original release. Not to my knowledge, at least. But, yeah, see, I shot the ball, and it just went straight in the pocket, of course. But you can kick the balls and all that good stuff. Again, they're just demonstrating the interactivity of the engine. So we got the pipe bombs. As far as I know, this is the first FPS game I could think of that's had any kind of grenade-type item. We've got this woman that is gave money to. I don't know if you noticed her. But doesn't she look a lot like Lara Croft? And of course, before Gordon Freeman was going around in vents with his crowbar, Duke Nukem was doing it first, going through them using a boot to kick them right open. Just further demonstrating the interactivity of the environments, which is really something that's very special with this particular game. You do have these triggered events like this, of course, where the enemies will pop out. Just like in Doom, but unlike in that, it actually shows these effects to the stages, which for that era was kind of convincing. We've got this little strip club looking area here that, well, it doesn't look like a strip club right now, but once we do certain things, the enemies will, or the ladies will come out, rather. The enemies will come out. Well, I guess there's still some enemies. But this area in particular confused me a lot. I will explain, but I was actually stuck in this area for probably a few minutes, absolutely trying to figure out what's going on here. It's been a long time since I played this game after all. I will show you just a little bit what I had to do to create a solution to progress through the stage. You'll see that vent, of course. You have to go in there, but you can't jump high enough. Now, this could potentially be a problem if not for the fact that I already have a certain item. Now, here's a little fun fact. If you decide to attack and kill these strippers, there's actually aliens that will spawn out to attack you when you do that. So, I don't know why you would do that, but I guess these aliens, they really don't want Duke to do that. And so they kind of white knight for them and try to come to their defense. And, obviously I don't think it happens to all of them, but it does trigger the enemy assault when you do that. There's just a lot of weird little details in this particular game like that you'll notice. But also, in case you didn't notice from the previous stage, I did grab a jetpack. And that jetpack will allow me to go up to the vent. That is something that can be pretty aggravating with these older games because you kind of had to really figure things out for yourself. You didn't have any kind of hand-holding. You didn't have any kind of waypoints or markers. You didn't have checkpoints. Like if you died in a stage, you had to restart the stage from the beginning. Although a lot of these older shooter titles from back then did give you the option to save anywhere. So that was something that you could take advantage of to kind of basically save scum it. But you'll notice that I had to fly through the vent and go around to open the door to basically open up that curtain. Which, you know, if you've seen those curtains, they're not solid at all. You should be able to just walk right through it. So they did have some kind of weird designs. But again, you need the jetpack to come up here. And the end of the stage is going to be just straight ahead. We just got to kill a few more big cops, which I always found that really interesting that these alien pigs are wearing like cop uniforms. I'm not sure if there's a reason behind it, but once you get to the end of the stage, they capture you and trap you, and you're going to go into the next stage, which this is something that is really crazy. This is not, again, something that they didn't do back then, but this game did it. They took away your weapons, they had you strapped to an electric chair, and then you're trying to bust out of prison. You have no weapons, you just have this one guy. You can go in here and kick the shit out of him, and you can take his gun, right? And that's going to force the other guy to go through that door. I'm out of ammo now. And, yeah, there's not a lot of options. I can hit these buttons, of course. Let's go ahead and hit a button. And that's going to open this glass. Oh, look at that. There's all these aliens that are wanting to watch my execution that are just ready to outright destroy me. And, of course, I'm trying to do everything I can in my power to survive, and I die instead. That's something to keep in mind with a lot of these old games. They can be pretty brutal, especially if you're kind of new to these games. They can be very rewarding too. So I'll show you what you've actually got to do here. So again, you proceed through, you deal with the two pig cops, you hit the other button which lowers the electric chair, and look at that. There just happens to be a shotgun with some ammo to get us started because we don't have any other weapons right now. I don't even have the handgun, which, funny fact, I don't know if I missed the handgun from this particular stage, but I played through the entirety of this stage and I could not pick up another handgun. So I don't know if I just overlooked it or what the case is. You know, I'm sure I'm able to get another one, but none of the enemies dropped one. They drop ammunition, but they have to drop the actual handgun. So we have like a little church thing for the, you know, because this is supposed to be a prison that Duke is in. A death row prison to be exact. So this would be where prisoners can, I guess, say prayers and all that good stuff that we just went through there. That's how we can open the door to go back into the electrocution room. As you can see, kind of going through it here. Now, like I said, you know, I have to keep in mind that back in 1996, they didn't have the technology or anything like that to represent a real world place, but they did kind of the best that they could given the technology for that era. So, like I said, there's no other games like this on the market at the time. Certainly not in the first-person shooter space. So, that is a randomly triggered event, which happens to open up this room right here with these spinning gears. So it's kind of a little bit of a jumping puzzle. Just like you would expect from games of this era. If you fall to your death, and you'll have to restart. So, I will show you in a little bit how you actually successfully navigate this jumping puzzle. It's really not that tough. it just takes some patience and whatnot. But because I'm out of ammo, I have to resort to the boot again. So they really ramp up the challenge in this particular game, from going from the second stage straight to the third stage. You lose all your weapons. You're in this situation where you're automatically taking damage right at the beginning of the game. So nowadays you have regenerating health. Like I said, you have the marker telling you exactly where to go. And then if you do that, you'll actually make this room all like kind of like satanic and stuff like that, which is kind of wild. Very interesting touch. And there's actually a monster on the other side of the cross there. And you'll also notice, if you didn't notice before, that cross was not upside down until we did that. Okay, and now we're going to proceed to the jumping puzzle. This just takes a little bit of patience. You just hop on and then just let it spin around and wait until you get back around. I would not recommend trying to be like a quick platforming pro, because you're probably going to fall to your death if you try that, of course. We have to go in here, of course, to get the key card and all that good stuff. You know, I think we got the rocket launcher, of course, as well. That's showing us the security camera feed of the electrocution room that we were just at earlier. Now, this probably you don't have to be quite as careful, but you know, I get kind of nervous about it. Now, there is an atomic health. You can try to get that. I wouldn't recommend it personally. Plus, you'll be able to get one later. But that basically will just boost your health above 100. So, got another pick cop here. And you'll notice a red tripwire. That is, of course, a trap. It's going to set off a bomb if you run through that. So that's another interesting thing that you didn't see in a lot of games. So you did have traps, of course, in games like Doom and Hexen and whatnot, but not really of that style at the same time, you know? So they're trying to do something a little bit extra with the way that works. So when we can shoot that, that's going to actually open up a backtracking path. And if we proceed through the door and we take the path, there we go, we got an atomic health. And you'll also notice that we're back in the jail cell that was closest to the execution room. So if you needed to go back there for whatever reason, that's just another path you can open. It's really not necessary, but I am trying to use modern game logic to disable the tripwire. It does not work that way, guys. That's something I realized once I made the attempt, of course. You have to just try to avoid them by ducking or jumping over them, or you can destroy them, of course, as well, so that you don't have to worry about that, which I'll show you that in just a bit, of course. But you got like a shower room right here for the prison. You got these weird force field walls, which this actually took me quite a while to figure out how to actually get in there. It was definitely something that, you know, thinking in the modern sense wouldn't make any sense. Like, I would think anybody that's kind of new to playing retro video games of this era, you know, like any younger kids and whatnot, and they're trying to figure out how to go through it, they would really struggle. Now, you can jump over those tripwires, so I'm just going to play it safe and destroy them instead. That's to get the key card. That's going to immediately set up another trap, so you have to leave the room right away because it's going to drop a bunch of tripwires, and you'll blow up, of course, and have to get it, restart the level from scratch. This was the time, guys. This really was the time. So let's go ahead and skip ahead. Okay, so we've got the key card. Let's go ahead and bust through. Oh, we've got some resistance. Let's whip out the rocket launcher and just completely annihilate those guys. Make it nice and easy for us here. We're going to grab some ammunition for the rocket launcher, of course. And then we've got another camera feed, which just shows the doorway that we just came in from. And there is actually a camera feed on the other side where you can see inside there. So you can actually use these camera feeds to your advantage if you choose to, in order to like see where enemies are and things like that. Now, this room out here seems like it's a total waste of time, because you see that big door, which appears to be the exit for the prison, but that's not the case at all. Like, that doorway does not work at all. Now, there is just in the corner, for some ridiculous reason, we have the red key card now that was out here. I have no idea why this particular part of the stage feels like real padding, but it is what it is at the same time. This was just the way a lot of games were made back then, but I mean, at the same time, I have a fondness for it. So we're going to go ahead and take that red key card. And now we can go to another spot of the map that we weren't able to before. Got some more enemy resistance, of course. And this right here is pretty interesting. We got this weird hologram looking dude here. And they give you that kind of weird, creepy message. You can pick up the chain gun, of course. And to the blind observation, there's not much you can do here. However, you can hit this button, and that's actually going to spin the room around. And this will allow you to do various things. Of course, we got to destroy those tripwires, because otherwise we can't get across. There's really not any particular reason you have to do this, although you can get an atomic health, which I'll show you there. You might have noticed something just now that I didn't notice for several minutes. It's kind of crazy, you know, but like this game is just that way. But yeah, let's grab that atomic health, of course. And then there's something up there as well. I'm just going to skip ahead because I fell off. Okay, and so we're back here, and that gives us the pipe bombs. So you get the atomic power, of course, as well as the pipe bombs. And then, of course, right there on the left and right, you'll probably notice something again. It's something I didn't notice, but I was just like, oh, I saw this vent here, and I wasn't noticing this stuff. You have to really pay attention as a user, but I did go down there and pick up some armor. Again, just another nice little secret. I feel so bad because it honestly took me like 15 minutes or something stupid like that to even figure out where I needed to go. So let me show you. And it was here at this point that I came to a realization that, oh, that is a doorway that I can go through. I didn't see this the entire time. Now, those switches will turn off the portals, as you can see there. And the security camera feed will confirm that. That allows you to actually go through those portals that we couldn't before. So that's the whole reason that we needed to go into this particular room. It had nothing else to do with the minigun or anything like that. That was just like an added little bonus. Didn't have to go through the other spot. But now we can shoot these guys. We can see those doorways. And we can use the switch right there on that panel to manipulate the doors that are open. The cell blocks that are open. And we can also unlock another kind of little secret area here. That's just another little bit of a backtrack. Yeah. You know, some of these are going to have enemies, ammunition, and so on. So eventually you're going to find one that's going to take you to a secret passage. And for the interest of time, because we've already been at it for a while, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to that. You'll, of course, eventually find this poster here, which happens to be a secret passageway. Presumably, there was a prisoner, I guess, that was trying to mine their way out of the prison, and they were doing that. I guess you could say it's maybe a little bit of a throwback to something like Shawshank Redemption or whatever. But you can use these pipe bombs to bust through. The flames are not just for show, they will actually damage you. Not a lot of damage, just don't stand in them indefinitely, and you'll be fine, of course. This will take you into the sewer. Hey, kind of like, again, Shawshank Redemption. Except, I guess this sewer is a lot more accommodating than it was in that particular movie, but anyways, this takes us to a submarine for some reason. I mean, this game is just bonkers. You have to keep in mind that even though they were trying to design levels a little more realistically and all that good stuff as they had back in the day, at the same time, there was a lot of wacky stuff that did not make any sense. But finally, we can open that big door, but we can't go that way. We had to go through the secret passage, of course. And we did pick up some scuba gear, which will allow us to dive into the water without taking damage, because otherwise you will take damage if you do so, of course. And again, this was like another kind of big deal for games in this era, you weren't really able to go underwater in first-person shooters. This is the first one that I'm aware of. We can't go through there, of course, but we can actually swim up into the submarine. And this will have a last couple of enemies, and then, of course, the exit of the game is just right there. And so that's just the first of many stages that you're going to see in Duke Nukem 3D. This is an absolutely mammoth game, absolutely huge, and I'm a huge fan, guys. And happy 30th anniversary to Duke Nukem 3D. So, if you've never have had a chance to play this game, and you happen to like first-person shooting games, particularly boomer shooter style games, this is like one of the essential games that you must play. I would say that playing a version based on the PC original, whether that's this Megaton edition, which you can't get anymore, or you get like the World Tour edition, which they have that on PC, they have it on PlayStation, Xbox. I'm not sure if it's on Switch or not. Those are all acceptable versions. If you happen to get a chance to get it on the Xbox 360, I know that the 360 store was shut down, but maybe you could still purchase it through the Xbox store on like an Xbox One. I'm not sure if it's backwards compatible or not, but that's something to keep in mind. If you have to play like an old version on the consoles, I would probably recommend like the PS1 or the Sega Saturn version. Like I said, the N64 version did have some various changes. Like some of the levels are actually different and they changed some of the content. They censored it a little bit. So it's not quite as good as the other console versions, but it's still fun. But yeah, that's what I recommend. They had this game, of course, and all kinds of other weird stuff. They had a Brazilian Mega Drive version, which is quite strange and is nothing like these games at all. They also had it on the Gamecom. They actually had it on the Gamecom, which for anybody that doesn't know, was this kind of rip-off Game Boy that was put out by Tiger Electronics, and they're known to make crappy stuff. So, yeah, exactly. But this was a real blast, kind of looking back, playing a little bit of Duke Nukem 3D, kind of explaining some of the things that I really enjoy with the game, and kind of giving you guys a little bit of a mini walkthrough for the first three stages. If you are a newcomer to the series, and I mean, the level designs are absolutely crazy. Like, this is still like one of the most remarkable games in that regard, although it can still be very frustrating at the same time. Like it took me like 15 minutes to find that secret exit to leave the prison, is ridiculous. That's not something you do in modern FPS games where it's like, here, go to this particular glowing marker and just, go exactly where we tell you. And if there's any kind of free roaming, it's going to be very limited at best. Um, but yeah. So happy 30th birthday to Duke Nukem 3D. Not Duke Nukem himself. The original Duke Nukem game, I believe, is probably around 35 years old now. I'm not sure exactly how old it is. I think it came out in 1991, and that was a 2D platformer. Another story entirely. Maybe that's something we'll take a look at next time we kind of do a little retro look back. Who knows? I like to mix it up though, and that's really gonna do it. So, hope you enjoyed this little feature presentation, and play yourself some Duke Nukem 3D in any way you can. And that's gonna be the last line.